The ITIL Service Value System. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe the ITIL Service Value System, describe the nature, use, and interaction of the guiding principles, explain the use of the guiding principles. Let's now look at the Service Value System, or SVS. The ITIL SVS describes how all the components and activities of the organization work together as a system to enable value creation. Each organization's SVS has interfaces with other organizations. This creates an ecosystem that facilitates value for those organizations, their customers, and other stakeholders. SVS ensures that the organization continually co-creates value with all stakeholders through the use and management of products and services. These components and activities, together with the organization's resources, can be configured and reconfigured in multiple combinations in a flexible way as circumstances change. But this requires the integration and coordination of activities, practices, teams, authorities, and responsibilities of all parties to be truly effective. The key inputs to the SVS are opportunity and demand. Opportunities represent options or possibilities to add value for stakeholders or otherwise improve the organization. Demand is the need or desire for products and services among internal and external consumers. The outcome of the SVS is value, the perceived benefits, usefulness, and importance of something. The ITIL SVS can enable the creation of many different types of value for a wide group of stakeholders. Opportunity and demand trigger activities within the ITIL SVS, and these activities lead to the creation of value. However, the organization does not automatically accept all opportunities or satisfy all demand. There may not be demand for these opportunities yet, but they can still trigger work within the system. Organizations should prioritize new or changed services with opportunities for improvement to ensure their resources are correctly allocated. Let's move on to our next topic, components of SVS. The ITIL SVS includes the following components: guiding principles, recommendations that can guide an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in its goals, strategies, type of work, or management structure. Governance, the means by which an organization is directed and controlled. Service value chain, a set of interconnected activities that an organization performs to deliver a valuable product or service to its consumers and to facilitate value realization. Practices, set of organizational resources designed for performing work or accomplishing an objective. Continual improvement, a recurring organizational activity performed at all levels to ensure that an organization's performance continually meets stakeholders' expectations. ITIL V4 supports continual improvement with the ITIL Continual Improvement Model. Let's learn about organizational silos. One of the biggest challenges an organization can face when trying to work effectively and efficiently with a shared vision or to become more agile and resilient is the presence of organizational silos. Organizational silos can form in many ways and for many different reasons. Silos can be resistant to change and can prevent easy access to the information and specialized expertise that exist across the organization, which can in turn reduce efficiency and increase both cost and risk. Silos also make it more difficult for communication or collaboration to occur across different groups. A siloed organization cannot act quickly to take advantage of opportunities or to optimize the utilization of resources across the organization. It is often unable to make effective decisions about changes due to limited visibility and many hidden agendas. Practices can also become silos. Many organizations have implemented practices like change management or incident management without clear interfaces with other practices. The ITIL SVS has been specifically architected to enable flexibility and discourage siloed working. The service value chain activities and the practices in the SVS do not form a fixed, rigid structure. Rather, they can be combined in multiple value streams to address the needs of the organization in a variety of scenarios. Organizations should be able to define and redefine their value streams in a flexible yet safe and efficient manner. This requires continual improvement activity to be carried out at all levels of the organization. The ITIL Continual Improvement Model helps to structure this activity. Finally, the continual improvement and overall operation of an organization are shaped by the ITIL guiding principles. The guiding principles create a foundation for a shared culture across the organization, thus supporting collaboration and cooperation within and between the teams, and removing the need for constraints and controls previously provided by silos. With these components, the ITIL SVS supports many work approaches, such as Agile, DevOps, and Lean, as well as traditional processes and project management, with a flexible, value-oriented operating model. Let's look at ITIL guiding principles. A guiding principle is a recommendation that guides an organization in all circumstances, regardless of changes in its goals, strategies, type of work, or management structure. A guiding principle is universal and enduring. Guiding principles can be used to guide organizations in their work as they adopt the service management approach and adapt ITIL guidance to their own specific needs and circumstances. These principles are also reflected in many other frameworks, methods, standards, philosophies, and/or bodies of knowledge, such as Lean, Agile, DevOps, and COBIT. These principles allow organizations to effectively integrate the use of multiple methods into an overall approach to service management. The guiding principles are universally applicable to nearly any initiative and to relationships with all stakeholder groups. The guiding principles encourage and support organizations in continual improvement at all levels. Let us review a high-level introduction to the guiding principles. 1. Focus on value. 2. Start where you are. 3. Progress iteratively with feedback. 4. Collaborate and promote visibility. 5. Think and work holistically. 6. Keep it simple and practical. 7. Optimize and automate. Let us look at the first guiding principle, focus on value. Focus on value. Everything the organization does should, directly or indirectly, create value for itself, its customers, and other stakeholders. It is mostly focused on the creation of value for service consumers. However, a service also contributes value for the organization and other stakeholders. The following recommendations can be adapted to address various stakeholder groups and the value that is created for them by the organization. Who is the service consumer? When focusing on value, the first step is to know who is being served. In each situation, the service provider must determine who the service consumer is and who the key stakeholders are. The consumer's perspective of value. The service provider must understand what is truly of value to the service consumer. The service provider needs to know why the consumer uses the services, what the services help them to do, how the services help consumers achieve their goals, the role of cost or financial consequences for the service consumer, and the risk involved for the service consumer. Value for the service consumer is defined by the consumer's needs, is achieved through the support of intended outcomes and optimization of the service consumer's costs and risks, changes over time and in different circumstances. The customer experience, or CX, may also be called user experience, or UX, is an important element of value. CX can be seen as the entirety of the interactions a customer has with the organization and its products or services. This experience can determine how the customer feels about the organization and its products and services. CX can be both objective and subjective. Let's look at how to apply the principle, focus on value. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Know how service consumers use each service. Understand their expected outcomes, how each service contributes to these, and how the service consumers perceive the service provider. Collect feedback on value on an ongoing basis, not just at the beginning of the service relationship. Encourage a focus on value among all staff. Teach staff to be aware of who their customers are and to understand CX. Focus on value during normal operational activity as well as during improvement initiatives. The organization as a whole contributes to the value that the customer perceives, and so everybody within the organization must maximize the value they create. The creation of value should not be left only to the people working on exciting projects and new things. Include focus on value in every step of any improvement initiative. Everybody involved in an improvement initiative needs to understand what outcomes the initiative is trying to facilitate, how its value will be measured, and how they should be contributing to the co-creation of that value. Let's look at the second guiding principle: start where you are. When engaged in any improvement initiative, do not start over without first considering what is already available to be leveraged. Starting without considering the past could be extremely wasteful in terms of time and loss of existing services, processes, people, and tools that could have a significant value in the improvement effort. Decisions on how to proceed should be based on information that is as accurate as possible. Services and methods already in place should be measured and/or observed directly to properly understand their current state and what can be reused from them. Decisions on how to proceed should be based on information that is as accurate as possible. Within organizations, there is frequently a discrepancy between reports and reality. This is due to the difficulty of accurately measuring certain data, or the unintentional bias or distortion of data that is produced through reports. Getting data from the source helps to avoid assumptions which, if proven to be unfounded, can be disastrous to timelines, budgets, and the quality of results. Goodhart's law states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. The use of measurement is important to this principle. It should, however, be used to support the analysis of what has been observed rather than to replace it, as over-reliance on data analytics and reporting can unintentionally introduce biases and risks in decision-making. For example, if a service desk focuses on length of time spent on the phone, in addition, it might also focus on minimizing the negative impact to customers or users, thus leading to a good user experience, which results in enabling users to resume their work. Metrics need to be meaningful and should directly relate to the desired outcome. Let's look at how to apply the principle: start where you are. Look at what exists as objectively as possible, using the customer or the desired outcome as the starting point. Are the elements of the current state fit for purpose and fit for use? There are likely to be many elements of the current services, practices, projects, and skills that can be used to create the desired future state, provided the people making this judgment are objective. When examples of successful practices or services are found in the current state, determine if and how these can be replicated or expanded upon to achieve the desired state. In many, if not most cases, leveraging what already exists will reduce the amount of work needed to transition from the current state to the desired state. Apply your risk management skills. There are risks associated with reusing existing practices and processes. There are also risks associated with putting something new in place. These should be considered as part of the decision-making process, and the risks of making or not making a change could be evaluated to decide on the best course of action. Recognize that sometimes nothing from the current state can be reused. Regardless of how desirable it may be to reuse, repurpose, and recycle, or even upcycle, there will be times when the only way to achieve the desired result is to start over entirely. Let's learn about the third guiding principle: progress iteratively with feedback. Improvement iterations can be sequential or simultaneous, based on the requirements of the improvement and what resources are available. Each individual iteration should be both manageable and managed, ensuring that tangible results are returned in a timely manner and built upon to create further improvement. When the iteration is being undertaken, circumstances can change and new priorities can arise, and the need for the iteration may be altered or even eliminated. Seeking and using feedback before, throughout, and after each iteration will ensure that actions are focused and appropriate, even in changing circumstances. A feedback loop is a term commonly used to refer to a situation where part of the output of an activity is used for a new input. In a well-functioning organization, feedback is actively collected and processed along the value chain. Well-constructed feedback mechanisms facilitate the understanding of end user and customer perception of the value created, the efficiency and effectiveness of value chain activities, the effectiveness of service governance as well as management controls, the interfaces between the organization and its partner and supplier network, the demand for products and services. Once received, feedback can be analyzed to identify improvement opportunities, risks, and issues. Working in a time-boxed iterative manner with feedback loops embedded into the process allows for greater flexibility, faster responses to customers and business needs, the ability to discover and respond to failure earlier, and an overall improvement in quality. Let's see how to apply the principle, progress iteratively with feedback. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Comprehend the whole, but do something. Understanding the big picture is important, but so is making progress. The greatest enemy to progressing iteratively can be the desire to understand and account for everything. Analysis paralysis. So much time is spent analyzing the situation that nothing ever gets done about it. The ecosystem is constantly changing, so feedback is essential. Use feedback at all times and at all levels. Fast does not mean incomplete. Just because an iteration is small enough to be done quickly does not mean it should not include all the elements necessary for success. Use minimal viable product, a version of the final product which allows the maximum amount of validated learning with the least effort. Let's move on to our next guiding principle, collaborate and promote visibility. When initiatives involve the right people in the correct roles, efforts benefit from better buy-in, more relevance because better information is available for decision-making, and increased likelihood of long-term success. Recognition of the need for genuine collaboration has been one of the driving factors in the evolution of what is now known as DevOps. Without effective collaboration, neither Agile, Lean, nor any other ITSM framework or method will work. Identifying and managing all the stakeholder groups that an organization deals with is important, as the people and perspectives necessary for successful collaboration can be sourced within these stakeholder groups. A stakeholder is anyone who has a stake in the activities of the organization, including the organization itself, its customers or users, and many others. Stakeholder collaboration include developers working with other internal teams to ensure that what is being developed can be operated efficiently and effectively. Relationship managers collaborating with service consumers to achieve a comprehensive understanding of service consumer needs and priorities. Customers collaborating with each other to create a shared understanding of their business issues. Internal and external suppliers collaborating with each other to review shared processes and identify opportunities for optimization and potential automation. Insufficient visibility of work leads to poor decision-making, which in turn impacts the organization's ability to improve internal capabilities. It will then become difficult to drive improvements, as it will not be clear which ones are likely to have the greatest positive impact on results. To avoid this, the organization needs to perform such critical analysis activities as understanding the flow of work in progress, identifying bottlenecks, as well as excess capacity, and uncovering waste. Let's learn how to apply the principle, collaborate and promote visibility. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Collaboration does not mean consensus. It is not necessary, or even always wise, to get consensus from everyone involved before proceeding. Some organizations are so concerned with getting consensus that they try to make everyone happy, and end up either doing nothing or producing something that does not properly suit anyone's needs. Communicate in a way the audience can hear. Selecting the right method and message for each audience is critical for success. The same traditional method for all communication will not work. Decisions can only be made on visible data. Making decisions in the absence of data is risky. Decisions should be made about what data is needed, and therefore what work needs to be made visible. There may be a cost to collecting data, and the organization must balance that cost against the benefit and intended usage of the data. Let's move to the fifth principle, think and work holistically. Taking a holistic approach to service management includes establishing an understanding of how all the parts of an organization work together in an integrated way. It requires end-to-end visibility of how demand is captured and translated into outcomes. In a complex system, the alteration of one element can impact others, and where possible, these impacts need to be identified, analyzed, and planned for. Let's learn about applying the principle, think and work holistically. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Recognize the complexity of the systems. Different levels of complexity require different heuristics for decision-making. Applying methods and rules designed for a simple system can be ineffective or even harmful in a complex system, where relationships between components are complicated and change more frequently. Collaboration is the key to thinking and working holistically. If the right mechanisms are put in place for all relevant stakeholders to collaborate in a timely manner, it will be possible to address any issue holistically without being unduly delayed. Where possible, look for patterns in the need of and interactions between system elements. Draw on knowledge in each area to identify what is essential for success and which relationships between elements influence the outcomes. With this information, needs can be anticipated, standards can be set, and a holistic viewpoint can be achieved. Automation can facilitate working holistically. Where the opportunity and sufficient resources are available, automation can support end-to-end visibility for the organization and provide an efficient means of integrated management. Let's look at the sixth principle: keep it simple and practical. Outcome-based thinking should be used to produce practical solutions that deliver valuable outcomes. Always use the minimum number of steps to accomplish an objective. When analyzing a practice, process, service, metric, or other improvement target, always ask whether it contributes to value creation. When designing or improving service management, it is better to start with an uncomplicated approach and then carefully add controls, activities, or metrics when it is seen that they are truly needed. When designing, managing, or operating practices, be mindful of conflicting objectives. Let's see how to apply the principle: keep it simple and practical. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Ensure value. Every activity should contribute to the creation of value. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It may seem harder to simplify, but it is often more effective. Do fewer things, but do them better. Minimizing activities to include only those with value for one or more stakeholders will allow for more focus on the quality of those actions. Respect the time of the people involved. A process that is too complicated and bureaucratic is a poor use of the time of the people involved. Easier to understand, more likely to adopt. To embrace a practice, make sure it is easy to follow. When improving daily operations activities, quick wins allow organizations to demonstrate progress and manage stakeholder expectations. Working in an iterative way with feedback will quickly deliver incremental value at regular intervals. Let's look at the last principle: optimize and automate. Optimization means to make something as effective and useful as it needs to be. Before an activity can be effectively automated, it should be optimized to whatever degree is possible and reasonable. Regardless of the specific techniques, the path to optimization follows these high-level steps. Understand and agree to the context in which the proposed optimization exists, the overall vision and objectives of the organization. Assess the current state of the proposed optimization, where it can be approved, and which improvement opportunities are likely to produce the biggest positive impact. Agree what the future state and priorities of the organization should be, focusing on simplification and value, standardization of practices and services. Ensure the optimization has the appropriate level of stakeholder engagement and commitment. Execute the improvements in an iterative way. Continually monitor the impact of optimization. This will help to identify opportunities to improve methods of working. Automation typically refers to the use of technology to perform a step or series of steps correctly and consistently with limited or no human intervention. For example, automating frequent and repetitive tasks helps organizations scale up and allows human resources to be used for more complex decision-making. In its simplest form, however, automation could also mean the standardization and streamlining of manual tasks, such as defining the rules of part of a process to allow decisions to be made automatically. Efficiency can be greatly increased by reducing the need for human involvement to stop and evaluate each part of a process. Let's look at how to apply the principle, optimize and automate. To apply this principle successfully, consider this advice. Simplify and/or optimize before automating. Attempting to automate something that is complex or suboptimal will not be likely to achieve the desired outcome. Take time to map out the standard and repeating processes as far as possible and streamline where you can optimize. From there, you can start to automate. Define your metrics. The intended and actual results of the optimization should be evaluated using an appropriate set of metrics. Use the same metrics to define the baseline and measure the achievements. Make sure that the metrics are outcome-based and focused on value. Use the other guiding principles when applying this one. When optimizing and automating, it is smart to follow the other principles as well. Progress iteratively with feedback. Iterative optimization and automation will make progress visible and increase stakeholder buy-in for future iterations. Keep it simple and practical. It is possible for something to be simple but not optimized, so use these two principles together when selecting improvements. Focus on value. Selecting what to optimize and automate and how to do so should be based on what will create the best value for the organization. Start where you are. The technology already available in the organization may have features and functionalities that are currently untapped or underutilized. Make use of what is already there to implement opportunities for optimization and automation quickly and economically. Let's look at how the ITIL principles interact with and depend on each other. As well as being aware of the ITIL guiding principles, it is also important to recognize that they interact with and depend upon each other. Organizations should not use just one or two of the principles, but should consider the relevance of each of them and how they apply together. For example, if an organization is committed to progressing iteratively with feedback, it should also think and work holistically to ensure that each iteration of an improvement includes all the elements necessary to deliver real results. Similarly, making use of appropriate feedback is key to collaboration and focusing on what will truly be. Organizational governance is a system by which an organization is directed and controlled. Governance is realized through the following activities. Evaluate. The evaluation of the organization, its strategy, portfolios, and relationships with other parties. The governing body evaluates the organization on a regular basis as stakeholders' needs and external circumstances evolve. Direct. The governing body assigns responsibility for and directs the preparation and implementation of organizational strategy and policies. Strategies set the direction and prioritization for organizational activity, future investments, etc. Policies establish the requirements for behavior across the organization and, where relevant, suppliers, partners, and other stakeholders. Monitor. The governing body monitors the performance of the organization and its practices, products, and services. The purpose of this is to ensure that performance is in accordance with policies and direction. The guiding principles and continual improvement apply to all components of the SVS, including governance. In an organization, the governing body can adopt the ITIL guiding principles and adapt them, or define its own specific set of principles and communicate them across the organization. The governing body should also have visibility of the outcomes of continual improvement activities and the measurement of value for the organization and its stakeholders. Regardless of the scope of the SVS and the positioning of the components, it is critical to make sure that the service value chain and the organization's practices work in line with the direction given by the governing body. The governing body of the organization, either directly or through delegation of authority, maintains oversight of the SVS. Both the governing body and management at all levels maintain alignment through a clear set of shared principles and objectives. The governance and management at all levels are continually improved to meet expectations of the stakeholders. Here are the key takeaways. The SVS includes the service value chain activities supported by an organization's universal and holistic practices. The guiding principles help organizations adopt and adapt ITIL to their context. The principles include focus on value, start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, collaborate and promote visibility, think and work holistically, keep it simple and practical, optimize and automate. Governance is realized through the activities such as evaluate, direct, and monitor.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.